Welcome back to the Alice Stewart Show on 96.5 The Voice.
Welcome back to the second hour of the Alice Stewart Show, 7:06, and a lot of legal news making headlines today. One, the state Supreme Court has made a ruling upholding, striking the rules on absentee voting. Also, the voter ID laws, avoiding where you don't have to show your voter ID. The original ruling by Judge Fox, the state Supreme Court, struck that down. So major decision on voter ID, but also on the gay marriage issue. This has been in the news for going on a week now after Pulaski County Judge Chris Piazza struck down the gay marriage ban, and it has been back and forth on that. And here to talk about that, I'm joined with Max Brantley. He is with the Arkansas Times and joins us on the Royal Overhead Door Hotline. Max, good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. And let me just say right off the bat, Arkansas Times has done a phenomenal job staying on top of all the developments with this gay marriage ruling, and hats off to you and certainly your staff. I want to get first off your thoughts on this really historic ruling by Judge Chris Piazza overturning the ban on same-sex marriage.
Well, first of all, Chris wrote an eloquent opinion, but at the same time, it shouldn't have been a surprise to anybody. It follows a string of dozens of rulings in other states that have looked to the U.S. Constitution, and in Arkansas, the even more powerful words of the Arkansas Constitution, and concluded that you can't deny equal rights to a group of people based on their sexual status. There's still a key question remaining at the U.S. Supreme Court. It may not be ready to go this far just yet, but the minute we've accepted gay people as legal citizens, at some point it just follows logically that they have to have the same rights as other citizens.
And the concern being that the backlash of this certainly is that in 2004, the legislatures passed a law defining marriage in the state of Arkansas as between one man and one woman, and that was also passed by 75% vote of the people. And the concern is that this one judge basically wiped out the will of the people and a standing law.
Well, I've said half-jokingly that some of the same people who are screaming about this didn't scream at all when a judge set aside a majority vote for Al Gore for president. I mean, that's the way our courts work. Dating back to the early 19th century, Marbury versus Madison gave the courts the power to decide, interpret law and constitution, and resolve conflicts where they exist. This happens all the time. If this were not so, we'd still have segregated schools in the United States, and we still would have illegal interracial couples because courts stepped in and said, no, those were unconstitutional things. And this is really no different. I understand there's deep religious feelings about it, and I understand where the opposition arises, but courts absolutely have the power to do this. I will say about public opinion, the 75% vote, I feel confident, wouldn't be nearly so high today. As old people die and young people grow up, public attitudes have changed towards people of gay and lesbian sexual orientation, and I think the polls show clearly 20 years from now this is not going to be an issue. Right now it's an issue.
Right, and one of the key components of this, and you've covered this quite closely, is when Judge Piazza issued this ruling last Friday. It was late in the day, and basically what this did, it opened up the floodgates for same-sex couples to get marriage licenses because there was not an immediate stay. What happened was it went through.
And I think Chris Piazza did. He could have gone either way, but I think he also, some judges in some states have stayed their rulings, some have not.
Right.
I think the judge probably, and I haven't talked to him, and I'm speaking for him without any knowledge of what he might think or say, is that he found a constitutional violation, and I think when a judge finds a constitutional violation, he doesn't say, okay, this is wrong, but I'm going to let you keep being wrong for a while. He enters his ruling, and it takes effect. Now, I think he needs probably to issue an injunction. He needs to clear up an omission, which I think was just an oversight of a statute that he didn't address specifically, all of the plaintiffs had asked him to, that makes it a crime for a clerk to issue a marriage license to a same-sex couple. Clearly, he intended for that to be viewed as unconstitutional as well. This will get hashed out today, maybe in a few days, and then I think somebody will again ask the Supreme Court for a stay, and then we'll get a clearer picture at that point on where the Supreme Court stands.
Right, and as you've reported extensively on your site, arkansastimes.com, it was a Monday, Attorney General Dustin McDaniel did appeal to the Supreme Court, requested a stay, and late yesterday, the Arkansas Supreme Court denied the stay, which means we're not going to stay that order, but county clerk's offices should not be issuing licenses. Still, yet again, Max, it seems so confusing.
The court didn't actually say that, but by invoking the statute that he failed to mention, it certainly gave the counties pause on continuing to issue the license, and so Pulaski County and Washington County, which were the only ones still issuing licenses, have decided to stop for the time being. I think Larry Crane in Pulaski County assumes that what I've described is going to happen, that this technicality is going to be dealt with, and then we'll be back to the situation where clearly in Pulaski County, where they were defendants, the law as viewed by the circuit judge that sits in their courthouse is that they got to issue licenses to same-sex couples. Right.
And with that, what's your thoughts on how the Supreme Court will ultimately decide on this?
Wow. I think the weight of legal opinion is that this court ultimately is going to uphold Chris Piazza. I'm not an optimist by nature. I support marriage equality. I hope that happens. I think it's likely there's a division on the court. There's certainly some members of the court who plan races for higher office, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. There are rumors that some of them are interested in elective office as high as governor. In the current climate in this state, I think some people like that will be reluctant to side with marriage equality. Some of it depends on whether the appeal is completed now or before a couple of new members take the seats on the court in January. But here's a situation that I think is most powerful in what the Supreme Court does. To this point, since this round of litigation began 2 or 3 years ago, there has not been a single court in the United States that I'm aware of at the district, federal, or appellate court level that has upheld statutes that discriminate against gay people in marriage. Does the Arkansas Supreme Court, in a state that has such an important role in the civil rights movement, really want to be the first one to say, no, all the rest of you guys are wrong? I don't think they will.
Now, it'll be interesting to see. But on that note, in the event that they do not uphold Judge Piazza's ruling and they rule against it and they say that the ban on gay marriage is constitutional, what happens with these 400 marriage licenses that have been issued? Good question.
There's been a mix of situations on that in other states, and I don't think it's by any means clear. There'll have to be a legal action eventually somewhere along the line there. I think there's some precedent that says legally entered arrangements remain legal because they were legally done under color of law at the time, maybe not. But here's the thing, that I think far too much has been made of this. Absolutely, if 400 marriage licenses have been issued this week turn out to be void, that's going to be a headache for those 400 couples.
Right.
They've lost their $60. They don't, but the damage that's been done to them is only that they've been returned to the status they were in last week, and no more, no less. Now, if somebody adopts a child and gets both names on a birth certificate, there are going to be some small complications potentially in related matters, but they're all solvable in the court of law. They're right. Not the damage that will be done by this will be done to those gay couples by the court overturning the ruling. There's been no damage done to society, no harm done to anybody else who opposes this.
And one last question: there are those that are clearly disappointed with the Judge Piazza's ruling. State Senator Jason Raper, one of many, and they're concerned with what this will do for traditional marriage and those that support it.
I say this jokingly, but not at all. When Chris Piazza ruled Friday, I didn't look at my wife and say, "Hey, it's over. I'm going to go find a man." This is nuts. I mean, I think a ruling that encourages marriage is better for the family. It's not worse for the family. Our families have been ruined, as several people have remarked, by easy divorce and a lack of respect for the sanctity of the vows that they've entered into. We have one of the highest divorce rates in the country, and yet we claim to be among the most Christian in the country. This state does. So I I understand they believe this deeply because their Bible tells them that these kind of marriages can't happen, but I don't think that the presence of other happy people with equal rights should damage any other family. It's a tribute to the institution, it seems to me.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time this morning. Max Brantley, senior editor at Arkansas Times. Max, thank you. Appreciate you.
Sure. Happy to do it.
All right. Have a great day. Well, we will take a break, and we will get, needless to say, the other side, the other opinion on this. State Senator Jason Rapert will join us with his thoughts on the latest developments in the same-sex ruling. And at the bottom of the hour, Young Guns, Josh Blevins and Jack Avery. Those with the younger generation weigh in on this. And former President Bill Clinton standing up for his wife, Hillary. All of that on The Alice Stewart Show.
The Alice Stewart Show on 96.5 The Voice.
Well, yeah, it's fine if you got the time.